Welcome to the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast. This is where Matt shares all his ideas on how to be happier, more successful, and enjoy life to the fullest. Please go to mattogradycoaching.com and thelivinggratitudebook.com to learn more and receive your free micro-coaching session with Matt. Enjoy part 2 of this episode.
That's what's really happening here now. For thought, so take for example, you have a thought that you didn't like. It didn't make you feel good when you thought it. So let's call it kind of one of those sad daydreams. You have this daydream about whatever, someone you care about doing something you don't want them to do, okay, or being mean to you, or not calling you back, or whatever it is in your life that, those kind of weird daydreams we have all throughout the day about life that don't make us feel good. Well, when you notice that you're having that daydream, in that moment, there is a choice to continue thinking it or to say in your being, in your mind, no, or stop, or just simply redirect your attention to something else. Look at the colors of the sun or the stars in the sky, or feel your feet, or think of the person you love most in the world and send them love. Whatever it is that you can do to choose something that feels better than where you were taking yourself previously. And that's when I work with a lot of my clients on self-criticism, and I work with them on seeing what's really possible and following through on their inspiration despite the resistance and fear and doubt and all the different challenges that come up when we start going for what we want, whether it's a relationship or business or losing weight or anything else in life that we may be doing. There's often challenges. There's education. There's things we've got to figure out. There's quote-unquote problems that come up. But everything that we then respond with is part of that choice. Now, as you go through life, you may have felt like, I didn't feel a lot of choice as I was experiencing life. Well, maybe you didn't know about the concept of being able to choose. Maybe you just weren't aware of how to become self-aware. Maybe mindfulness is still a new concept to you. And all of that's fine. But I'm telling you, if you really start to remember every day that your life is filled up of choices all day long, whether you're choosing to go to work or do the errands or take care of a sick friend or family member, whatever it is, just remember that it's a choice. And that will create more freedom around it. It may be a choice that you no longer want to do and you want to start figuring out how to make different choices. Or it may be something that you realize you should really be proud of yourself about, like taking care of that sick friend or family member, right? And instead of seeing it as a burden, you can start to see it as a badge of honor, something beautiful that you're doing for someone you love, someone you care about. And that's how I feel about, the giving back work that I do. I try not to see it as a chore or an extra responsibility. I choose to look at it as this opportunity to expand my love for the world, for the people in it, not just think about just my family and close-knit group of friends, but try to reach out and see who else might need some help. And, of course, I'm not abandoning my family, but I am choosing to focus on other people than just my family and close-knit group of friends. And at least most of my family and close-knit group of friends understand that. They understand who I am. They understand that that's important to me. And so as you start to really work through this, you start to see a whole lot of really interesting things, because sometimes we have bad habits, I'll just pick one out of the hat. I don't bite my nails, but it seems like a pretty bad habit, or smoking. I used to smoke, so I know what that's like. We have these habits, and they don't feel like choices. They feel like habits. And then we tell ourselves, oh, it's just a habit, or I can't stop, it's a habit, or I've tried to stop, whatever it is. The past is dead, and the future isn't here yet. All of this happens in the present moment. Yes, pregnant pause, right? I want that to sink in. Every aspect of life always happens in the present moment, every moment of life. Everything you've ever experienced, anything you will ever experience in the future, actually only happens in the present moment. So even though you may have been smoking for 20 years, the truth is this next cigarette is a choice. This next nail that you bite is a choice. You know, and I was definitely addicted to cigarettes. I can remember when I was trying to quit, starting to quit, I quit a couple times, stopped for a couple weeks or a few months or whatever it was, and then go to a party and smoke again, and all of a sudden I was buying a pack later that week. Like 3 days later, stress would happen or whatever else, and I'd go buy a pack of cigarettes. And I can remember being in the moment. I had already started my spiritual work. This is back in my 20s. And I can remember being halfway through a cigarette and becoming mindful that I actually want to quit. I may be enjoying this right now, but I know long term this isn't what I want to do. And then putting it out. Maybe even after a couple drags, I put the cigarette out. So I started planting the seed of no longer smoking. And then there were other times where just in general I was still smoking. I was in a period of maybe not every day, maybe weekends or whatever it is I was doing at the time. And I'd remember, I'd feel the urge, get a cigarette, go bum a cigarette from my coworker or my friend or whatever, and like feel the urge inside me, and then choose not to follow through on that urge. Say no, say stop to that cycle within me. And anyone can do the same thing. I mean, there's millions and millions of people who have given up all sorts of addictive habits, whether it's drugs or cigarettes or alcohol or whatever it is, biting nails or, you know, whatever it is that people do that they feel like they shouldn't do, don't want to do anymore. When you realize that all of it is a choice on some very important, basic, foundational level, it's a choice. And once you start to look at your life through that prism, through that filter, through that perspective, it gives you a lot more power than feeling like I'm addicted, I've always done it, that's the story I'm telling, it's just who I am, you know. Well, if you're happy with who that is, then great. If you're proud of it, if you feel that it's good to be going in, if you're living the dream of who you are, then that's great. If you're not, then choose differently, and your life will begin to change, and you will have different choices. So when I first started the spiritual path, I didn't always want to try to be compassionate or giving or aware or loving or open my heart or any of that stuff. I was like, no way, man. I'm just trying to figure some stuff out or whatever I was telling myself when I started all those years ago. But I started to realize that it was all just a choice. Still to this day, I'm not Jesus, I'm not Buddha, doing the best that I can in a modern day New York life to be as spiritual as possible and loving as possible and aware as possible and grateful as possible as I go through life. And those are all choices, choosing to be loving and grateful and kind and compassionate. And I'm not always successful. Even though I wrote a book about gratitude, I'm not always grateful. But I'm grateful every day, sometimes more than others. Sometimes I'm grateful all day long, and that's something I'm really proud of. It feels really wonderful. It is a badge of honor for me to kind of know that I've followed through enough on what I want to choose, which is being grateful, being loving, being compassionate, being peaceful, being helpful, being kind, being giving, being aware, being grounded, being awake. It feels really good to do those things. And that's where I want my life to go. So I choose them as much as possible. And I choose them consciously. And I plan to choose them. And I choose not to watch certain TV shows. So my wife last night wanted me to watch a psychic investigator show. And, okay, it's interesting. I'm not like a big psychic guy, but I have lots of friends who are psychics, and I think what they do is awesome. It's just I'm not that passionate about kind of trying to reach the people who have gone to the other side or, that kind of thing. For me, I still feel connected to them. I don't feel disconnected from the people who have died in my life. I feel like I still have relationships with them. But that's a whole other topic. So my point is, my wife puts the show on, and it's about a murder, and then the next one's going to be about a serial killer and this and that. It's just not for me, I think it's amazing that the psychics were able to help with these crimes, and that's great. And I'm very happy for all the people involved because it seemed to be helpful to them, and I was able to notice that and appreciate that. But there was also a whole lot of gruesome details and kind of, murderous, serial killing kind of thoughts that I don't want to plant in my present so that I'm reaping the, harvest of those types of experiences. More opportunities to become aware of murder and serial killing is not really in my game plan. So I told my wife, this was the last time I'm watching that show. I just let her know, listen, it's just not for me. Go watch it in your own time. I don't recommend it, but do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And it's a simple example. But in those moments, I was self-aware of how it made me feel, and it didn't make me feel good. I mean, I was happy to see that the family got some sort of closure. That was nice. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't nice enough. It wasn't inspiring to me at all to want more of those experiences, because what I was really noticing is this kind of like gruesome, horrible, sad story that was going on about the murder and the serial killing, all of that. So I'm choosing not to watch that. That's why I don't watch the news every day. If I feel the need to get kind of the quote-unquote news or read an article about ISIS or anything like that, I read it online. It's much less dramatic to me. I still get all the same information, but I don't get all those images. I don't get kind of that emotional quotient to the same degree as when you hear someone talking about it on TV. There's a really powerful emotional quotient that's involved. And I find it very depressing and very sad to hear about every little stabbing and molestation and terrorist situation all around the world. And if I wanted to become aware of all of them, it would take, thousands of lifetimes to just watch TV, watch the news all day long, 24 hours a day to know what's going on. That's not how I want to show up in the world, as somebody who's living in fear, living in pain and sadness and fear and doubt and anger about what's going on in the world. There's a lot of people doing that, and I don't see it changing. I see a lot less people focusing on peace and love and beauty and goodness. But that does do something in the world. I have no doubt about it because I've experienced it thousands of times. And I plan on experiencing it millions of more times throughout my life. And it feels so good. It feels so right that I know I'm choosing the right path, not to focus on, reality shows of, the wives of two hating each other and lying to each other and being mean to each other and the drama and the crying and all of that. I don't want my life to equal up to a Desperate Housewives or a Wives of Timbuktu. So I don't choose to watch those shows. I choose to watch shows that do really inspire me, like a documentary on Paramahansa Yogananda called Awake. I talked about it a few weeks ago on this podcast. I may just do a podcast on Yogananda someday, how much he's affected my life. Teachings, his books, so much goodness has come from him into my life, into the teaching. And he's someone who talks all the time about choosing kind of the divine path within you, choosing the path that is most aligned, most inspired, most motivated, most beautiful, most loving, most kind and compassionate, this loving kindness kind of mindset about life. Well, anyway, I hope that this podcast was really helpful to you, and it was really helpful to me to talk about it, so thank you for listening. And please go to MattO'GradyCoaching.com and send me a little note about what you think of the podcast, what you'd like to hear about, and you can also go to TheLivingGratitudeBook.com. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. What will you choose next after you turn this podcast off?
Boar's Head invites you to enlighten your senses. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Inspired by Japanese master chefs, our signature teriyaki glaze is crafted with garlic, ginger, and a hint of brown sugar, then paired with our tender, slow-roasted chicken breast for a flavor that's sweet, savory, remarkably bold. Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken, the bold flavor of Japan, now at the deli. Compromise elsewhere.
Thank you again for joining us on the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast. Until next time, please go to MattO'GradyCoaching.com and TheLivingGratitudeBook.com to learn more and receive your free micro-coaching session with Matt.